Welcome back to Cal Park Bros. Jason and I are fresh off the segment discussing the MTV VMAs. I guess Florida's going to have to take the week off, Jason, because Missouri, you're up, slugger. Jason wanted to talk about this earlier, and I thought it was fascinating. Apparently, there is a school district in Missouri, Cassville School District. They don't want their students suspended. They want an option to actually bring back paddling. Yes, that version of paddling as like corporal punishment. If students don't respond to other methods of discipline. Now, this may come as a shock, but not just this school district, but several school districts don't use corporal punishment. And so for 2 decades, they haven't done anything like this. Jason, I'm curious. How the hell do you just decide to opt into ass whoopings all of a sudden?
So the school district in particular is Cassville in Missouri, which, for those of you who don't know, is a little ways south of Springfield, Missouri, and just a little bit west of Branson, Missouri. So kind of that Ozark area, I used to live in Springfield, Missouri, and I will say that's a very red area, if you know what I mean. And I guess it's going to be even more red when students start getting their asses paddled. So, but anyway. So, according to a New York Times article about this, is that the superintendent mentioned that the reason why this became a thing is because many of the parents in the area actually requested this to be an option. So that's how this school district on their own has decided that we're going to bring this and institute this. Now, it is something also the principal of certain schools said, hey, we're okay with this happening. Now, I did kind of wonder myself, how is this going to be instituted when it comes to who's going to do the paddling? Is it like an on the spot thing? Is it going to be like a ramp up kind of thing? Like first you get a warning, write up, and then paddling, whatever. So apparently, it is something that's going to be administered not by teachers in general, more so school administrator or administrators. But then I also now there's a thing in there that kind of mentions a possible governing of how hard somebody's supposed to get hit. But that was kind of one thing I mentioned to you, a concern, like, okay, so they're going to do this. Who's to say how hard the teacher or principal, now that we know, can actually swat, somebody? So that's why I kind of wonder, are parents okay with that part of it? Like, hey, my kid can't sit down for the next 3 days because he got paddled. Are they going to be okay with that? So, yeah, I just find this quite interesting from multiple perspectives, particularly that parents were okay with this. And I can go more into feedback about that. But also, to my discovery here, I'm going to throw it back to you, that apparently, including Missouri, there's 19 states in the country, mostly in the South, where paddling or corporal punishment actually is still legal and on the books. Because the Supreme Court back in the day decided, just like with Roe versus Wade, that it's up to the states to decide what they want to do for their state. And 19 states decided that we're going to allow corporal punishment if a school or district wants to do that. So, your thoughts on that, sir?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that a lot of states in the South still have that on the books. This is just my suspicion that it's on the books, but I don't know how common it is that it's applied as on the books. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of obscure laws in states, for example. I just feel like that's if you have all these damn people complaining about taking away prayer in schools, you best believe they took away ass whoopings. Come on now. How prevalent is paddling other than this random ass middle of the Ozark school district?
Okay, so I can give you some insight into that. There's unfortunately not any recent data when it comes to the recent COVID years. obviously. But the last reported federal data reported for the 2017-2018 school year was that about 70,000 public school children were subjected to corporal punishment in the 17-18 school year. Nearly 4,000 schools reported using corporal punishment during that school year. So again, we can probably look up more information to see what percentage that is when it comes to the 70,000 school children and 4,000 schools, which may be a small number, but that gives you a little bit of insight in that question you're asking about how many schools, districts, or kids are subject to this. And there's your answer. So, but also, again, if we're only talking about 19 states doing this, divided up by not the kids in the entire nation, but the number of kids in schools and districts in just those 19 states, and then you have your answer.
Yeah, I that is somewhat helpful. Um, it just seems such like a foreign concept to me. Like a lot of these parents nowadays, and I'm not even advocating for corporal punishment in schools. So before you send hate mail, just relax. Uh
I mean, you are wearing the red shirt, so I don't know.
yeah. I like we've done such a bang up job of undermining teachers and administrators in general in the first day in place. I can't imagine like I can't imagine parents being okay with their children being paddled unless they they want someone to get a head start on this. Like like I'm gonna address some sort of behavioral issue um afterwards anyway. Is I'm thinking from the perspective of some parent that would be okay with this.
So that leads me to a question I was going to ask you, which I think you basically already answered it. So you personally, now obviously your child is, beyond, you know, this. She'll be heading to college soon, or probably already started. Would you be okay with this for your child? Not to say your child would ever get to the point of needing to be paddled in the first place, but would you be somebody, a parent that says, okay to this? If the school district were to ask you specifically, Terrence Brown?
I would not be okay with someone else putting hands on my kid like that. Teacher or no teacher. I mean, and the article actually calls this out. It's like, okay, what are other alternatives other than just break cracking the whip, right? And yeah, I get it. You got kids. Is that a slavery joke that you're internalizing?
No, I think you were internalizing, which is why you had to stop and say something. So,
No, no, no. I think so. They're anti-suspension, but they're pro ass whooping. But the article even mentions like what counseling services are available.
well, I mean, again, like I mentioned before, the paddling thing is a last ditch effort, for lack of a better term. There's a different term they use, but that's basically what they mean. They're not paddling kids for the first offense. They're not doing that. It would take a kid doing something pretty heinous or continually doing something bad for them to get to the point where a principal says, you know what, I gotta get the paddle. I gotta get out old Woody. But so so again, yeah, as weird as this sounds about paddling, again, I just yeah, it's not gonna be the first thing they go to. This it shouldn't be. And I guess that's where some stuff's going to be monitored. I would have to imagine, and I don't know. It has to be some sort of registry. I don't know. That said, hey, on this date and date, I gave the paddle to so and so. There has to be, because that's pretty serious. Whether it's allowed in a state or not, that's pretty serious to take a paddle to a student. So it has to be some type of registry that says, "Hey, this happened." Not I mean, really just for a liability standpoint.
A registry? You like mean like a baby registry?
If you want to, if that's how you want to put it, okay. But the point is, yeah, something that says, "Hey," because like I said, liability standpoint. You know what I mean? The last thing I'm sure the school wants is something to happen to say, "Hey, you paddled my kid, and then this happened." Blah 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 blah. Well, no, he didn't. Well, I say you did. So I have to imagine there has to be some type of regulation by the state. I could be wrong because the article probably doesn't mention it. But I have to imagine there'd be some type of regulation for the school. Even if it's not regulated by the district, I would still want that because again, some documentation of this is what happened and when it happened. You know, because this does scream lawsuit waiting to happen, in my opinion. Now, if parents giving the okay may take some of that away, but again, like I said, it seems kind of arbitrary to decide, okay, by the individual, say the principal, of how hard you're going to hit somebody. Because there's really no measure to say, hey, you can hit somebody this hard. Yeah. So I feel like that's going to be the biggest issue coming out of this is how hard somebody gets hit.
I think the biggest issue is going to be, I mean, to your point, documenting this. This is why they said, and they in this case would be the school district, is that they have to be, you effectively have to have someone meeting out this punishment and then someone else actually there present that's certified.
Certified in what?
That's an excellent question, Jason. I have no idea.
Certified paddle expert?
Certified in ass weapons. I don't know. Jason, it's all bizarre to me. It's a very bizarre article.
Certified whooping your
I
kid's ass?
I think there's probably some correlation between places that tend to lean on corporal punishment and places that seem to not have any sort of structure for, counseling services or things like that. That's just a hunch I have. But these 19 states you mentioned, I'm willing to bet they probably don't invest a lot on social services when it comes to stuff like this.
Maybe, maybe not. I may be willing to actually agree with you. Um, but yeah, I mean, again, they mentioned they're in the South, mostly in the South, but I tried to find a list of actual schools just to make sure. But yeah, hey, look at that. Apparently, Indiana's one of them. Apparently, so
Well, Indiana is desperately trying to be a southern state.
if this is correct, which I shudder to make sure, but this is correct. Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Mexico, Carolina, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas, and Tennessee.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. I it 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 doesn't even sound good on paper. It just I just had a million more questions. I had as many questions before we brought it up as a potential topic as I do after we've now talked about it. Because I'm just like, you hit the nail on the head. Like certified by who?
Well, that's another point. Is there going to be any certification at all for this process? Or is it just up to the principal or whoever's dictated at the school to administer that punishment? But I
Yeah.
do agree. But I do agree with you. That's actually a good point. There probably would have to be a second person witness. We'll say, and honestly, probably have to be two witnesses. I have to imagine. Um, but yeah, you really couldn't just have the principal in the room with the student. Just. I mean, and that may be what happens. But even that sounds like a horrible idea for all parties involved.
Yeah. I'm not enthused by this plan. I feel like it's intentionally vague. Um I'm willing to bet that they're probably, and the whole, oh, we're opting. People were allowed to opt into it. Like, okay, I just because you can opt into something doesn't make it good. It's like, don't worry, don't worry. I opted into the hazing process. It's totally fine.
Now, devil's advocate, real quick, we can go in on this if you want to. If you're a student in that school district, is that going to encourage you to not be messing up too much because you don't want to get paddled at school? Just put that out there. Again, you got to answer that. Just put that out there.
I think that's a great question for that school district. And I would love to know when elections come up. All right. That concludes our paddling posturing segment. And with that, we'll wrap up the show.